Welcome to today's briefing, everybody. Let's head over to the Eastern Mediterranean to see what's going on over here today. So the Gerald R4 Carrier Strike Group has been officially extended into 2024. We kind of saw this coming whenever they didn't start heading back for Christmas and the holidays just last week. There was no way they were going to make it back by Christmas, so they went ahead and extended them through the holidays. Now, what we do know is that they went underway, the whole Carrier Strike Group, back in May 2023. This puts them about 7 months of deployment right now. It is very common for carrier strike groups to operate in the 6 to 9 month window. That is just a routine deployment. Despite this one being extended, they're not extended into territory that they've never gone before. Now, this is the maiden voyage of this ship, but I'm talking about Navy aircraft carriers in general. 6 to 9 months is the norm, so they're well inside that window. It's unfortunate that they're being extended through the holidays, and I do feel bad for all the crew members on board, not just the carrier. Remember, there's a whole fleet of ships supporting the carrier operations, and every one of them should have been home by Christmas. Unfortunately, they can't be there. There was some talk of having the USS Bataan and Carter Hall with the 26 Marine Expeditionary Unit on board come and relieve them to coordinate operations in that region, but that plan was decided not to go forward with, and they're going to keep all assets in theater, the Bataan and the Gerald R. Ford. So one of the reasons for this is Hezbollah is continuing to shoot rockets into northern Israel. They're increasing these attacks. A lot of them, like you see here in this graphic, are actually falling short. They're not even making it to Israel because they've retreated from the northern Israeli border so much that they often can't even make it into the borders, essentially shelling their own territory, right? That's how poorly these attacks are being coordinated. But the fact is the attacks continue, and Israel will have to deal with it at some point. So the evacuation of Lebanon may become necessary as the war in Gaza shifts to the north. Hundreds of mortars and rockets are being launched on civilian compounds every day in Israel right now. Hezbollah is increasing its activity against civilians, and Israel is determined to stop this. So it looks like this war is going to go on for a lot longer than any of us had expected. This is not a Gaza war anymore. This is going to expand into Hezbollah. Israel's just being very methodical about doing it one step at a time. Hezbollah is the next step. Now, in order for that to begin, the U.S. Marine Corps has to go and evacuate U.S. civilians. Usually they do that with the diplomatic corps that may be in the region. But if you're an American contractor or for whatever reason in Lebanon right now, I would get out immediately because we're going to have a hostage situation there the moment it becomes clear that the IDF is moving into Lebanon. They're going to take hostages and try to use the same tactics we're seeing in Gaza, but in Lebanon. So get out if you're in Lebanon right now. And if you don't, you might be getting a free ride with the U.S. 26 Expeditionary Force as they go and they clean things up before Israel goes in. So Israel has an opportunity here to eliminate two of Iran's proxy forces in the region. They're dealing with Hamas right now, very systematically going through the Gaza Strip, dividing it up into sectors and then surrounding it and crushing it, and just methodically moving, from the north to the south generally. When the war in the north against Hezbollah will be much more conventional. Hezbollah, or Lebanon rather, is going to be more of a farm, open field fight. It's going to be completely different. It's not going to be as urban as we are seeing in Gaza, because the entire Gaza Strip is so urbanized and overpopulated, it's very difficult. So the Israeli Defense Force are really going to have to adjust tactics to how they're going to employ effectively their military in the fields of southern Lebanon and the rocky terrain that's there as well. So we won't see a lot of city and tunnel fighting, and perhaps the war in Lebanon will go faster than cleaning out Gaza. Well, Gaza will take, I think, a long time. So let's highlight real quick some things that are going on in Gaza as Israel moves through. They're finding these little booby traps, if you will. Not only is Hamas, booby trapping buildings and tunnels like you would expect, they're also taking children's clothing, children's backpacks, stuffing them with bombs, and then to attract the attention of an IDF soldier, using portable speakers like the little black cylinder you see there, that's a speaker, to play distressed children crying, recordings of distressed children crying to attract the attention of the IDF soldiers. When they get close to the clothes or the backpack, it then explodes, injuring the soldier. So this is the new tactic. This is what Hamas is doing right now to try and kill IDF soldiers. It's pretty sick. So what are Hamas leaders doing right now? Well, as I was writing this lecture, I was going to make an argument for why Israel should go and move against Qatar and how that would work out. But looks like Qatar got the message without me having to say anything, because Qatar is kicking out the Hamas leaders that were living a very comfortable lifestyle in the city of Doe, where, by the way, Hamas was formed years ago. I didn't even know that until I did this research. So the two gentlemen on the right, and I'm using the term gentleman very loosely here in the case of these two knuckleheads, you have Massa Abu Marzouk and Khalid Mashal, have fled Qatar. Qatar is right there on the Persian Gulf. You would think an obvious place for them to go would be Iran, because Iran has helped create Hamas years ago and has been supporting them for decades with supply and money and weapons and everything that they need to cause havoc in Israel. But the moment the shit hits the fan, and they need to fly away somewhere, looks like Iran's not accepting any refugees at the moment, if you will. Right above me, this is a Salih al-Aroui, and he is a senior leader of Hamas. He lived, past tense, in Lebanon, right? The place where Israel is going to go next. So real quick, and then pause the video if you need to, write in the comments, where do you think these leaders would go if Iran would not accept them? What other Middle East nation would take Hamas leaders in this current politically charged environment? Well, if you guessed Turkey, you nailed it. Congratulations. This NATO country is accepting terrorist leaders into their country and giving them protection. Protecting these people as they flee Lebanon and Qatar, because the Mossad, which is the intelligence force of Israel, is coming after them. As publicly said, they're going to hunt them down and kill them. Those three men are dead men walking as far as Mossad is concerned. So they fled to Turkey. Turkey's president is a man named Erdogan, and he is a strong supporter of Israel. Oh my God, no, he's not. He's a strong supporter of Hamas and Iran, and he sees himself as like an Old Testament religious leader, very hardcore, by the nose. He really wants to be the next leader of the caliphate, of the next caliphate. So he's just supporting everything he can to become that person as he's the leader of Turkey. My question is it in Turkey's best interest to protect these Hamas leaders, and will they do it? And if they do protect them, will Mossad go after them? And let's take that a step further. Let's say the intelligence secret service, essentially, of Israel goes into a NATO country and kills 3 Hamas leaders. Will that invoke Chapter or Article 5 in the NATO agreement? Is that an attack on NATO if that happens? Okay, so that's a lot for you guys to chew on. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. This MP, this man is Hassan Bitmez. He goes by Turkish MP. That's probably his rap name or something. Perhaps he should be more concerned about God than the Mossad, because while he's talking shit about how horrible Israel is, he forgets about Ezekiel 25:17 right here for a moment and passes out. At least God let him finish, right? Now, before you guys get too concerned, the man did suffer a heart attack. He passed out. He's not dead in this picture. Brain death takes about 6 more minutes, so we have a few minutes to appreciate the irony of this moment as he is talking mad shit about Israel and how horrible they are, and then the God of Israel, Yahweh, just takes the man home immediately in front of his peers on public television. I am not above the irony of this moment. I think that nature has a sense of humor, and even as an atheist, I can appreciate how hilarious this is. So farewell, sir. You won't be missed. Let's move on. After these events are done, the preparation for the northern offensive is going to happen. The fleeing leaders in Turkey is going to have to be resolved at some point. And this whole time, the U.S. Navy has been watching this go on. For instance, the fleeing from Lebanon into Turkey was observed by U.S. air assets and could have been stopped, but wasn't. So I'm really curious to see what America's role is going to be going into 2024 here, especially with the swapping out of the carrier strike groups. We're clearly going to have a continuous presence there in the region for probably years to come. This might be the new Middle East deployment, might be off the coast of Israel now. And I would say again, if you're an American in Lebanon, whether you're on contract or you're there as part of a diplomatic effort or some other corporate effort, get the hell out, because they will be taking hostages again when it becomes clear that Israel's going in to southern Lebanon. Mark my words. All right, let's move on to a little bit more positive news here. Back here at home in the United States, the U.S. Congress has finally passed its $886 billion package to fund the Department of Defense and the Pentagon into 2024. The U.S. Navy is authorized to transfer 2 Virginia-class submarines to the Royal Australian Navy in 2024 and sell a third one to them under 2 conditions. The first condition is the United States needs to continue to expand our submarine industrial base. We've been funding that for years now, so I believe that wicket is already met because we are continuing to improve our shipyards here at home. The second one is to authorize a West Submarine Rotational Force that will begin operating out of HMAS Sterling, which is a naval base in Perth, Australia. That's on the far western side of Australia over there, if you're not familiar with where Perth is. Pretty much opposite of Sydney, if you will, other side. Okay, so that's probably already being set up because that was part of Pillar 1 back in 2021 when this agreement was announced. So assuming that we have met both these conditions, because I believe that we have, this sale is going to go through. What I don't like is there's a little bit of a rug pull here. In 2021, our leaders, and I'm talking about the President of the United States, the Secretary of the Navy, and the Secretary of State, all got together and for 2 years have been telling us that the United States will sell 3 Virginia-class submarines to Australia and have the option to sell an additional 2 for a total of 5 if they want that many. Well, now that the deal is actually going to happen in 2024, we find out we're not selling anything. We're not even lend-leasing it. We're simply giving 2 Virginia-class submarines to Australia and then selling the third one to them. And that sale could be for $1. My problem is not really with the price or even the fact that we're giving them submarines. That's fine. Give them all 3 submarines, for no money. This is not about money. What this is about is the President, the Secretary of Navy, and Secretary of State for 2 years lying before the American people, saying that this would be a sale of 3 with an additional 2, and it not being. It's going to be a gift. So don't lie to us, is my point. I'm upset about the politicians lying to us and then through this channel, spreading that lie unintentionally, because I don't think they ever had any intention of taking even $1 for these submarines. And that should have been clear from the beginning. If they just say, hey, we're going to give them 3, and if they need 5, we're going to give them 5, and let us know from day one. So, shame on the politicians again for lying to the public, but it's my job here to call it out when it happens. All right, let's move on to the USS George Washington. CVN 73 is doing a workup off the east coast of the United States right now in the Atlantic Ocean. This is very likely to be the next aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean. She'll probably relieve the Gerald R. Ford in early 2024, January, February timeframe is what I'm guessing at. They obviously don't publicize those dates, but just to give you an idea of when this might happen, I think it's going to be early in the year. Now, what a carrier strike group brings, and we already have this on site, is, of course, fighters, like you see here's F-35 here, but also electronic warfare planes. Those don't get a lot of attention, but they're very important for ISR. That's surveillance and reconnaissance gathering. And then, of course, the fleet of destroyers and support ships that go around with it. And all of these ships and planes are connected. They're in what's called a network-centric coordination, and it connects domains. So from the sea, we can coordinate actions ashore via this network, and also in the air domain. So, if we're supporting special forces on the ground somewhere and coordinating airstrikes in close support of them, we can the United States Navy can coordinate all that from the carrier, or even from one of the destroyers, to be frank with you. So this is a great capability to have in the region, and it looks like going forward, at least through 2024, we're going to have a near continuous presence off the coast of Israel with a carrier strike group. And I think that's the right decision, because our presence has shown with Gerald R. Ford that it keeps the war from expanding. Like, yeah, sure, Iran is trying to supply proxy armies like the Houthis in Yemen with stuff, but there are absolutely no arms getting into Gaza anymore, for sure, at least not from the sea, and it's highly unlikely anywhere else. And Lebanon, we haven't seen any activity going on there. So they're expending their ordnance in Lebanon right now without resupply. And I think a big part of that is just the presence of this American carrier strike group. And then lastly, the big thing here is we can also provide supplies and humanitarian aid to the region. So we bring more than just bombs and an iron fist. We bring humanitarian aid. All right, let's move over to micro Indonesia near Guam. All these little islands out there in the middle of the Pacific, they all have little populations and people on there. And every year, the United States Air Force and our partners in the region get together and do what's called Operation Christmas Drop. And I love stories like this. I wish I could report more stuff like this. This is a humanitarian event that flies supplies, essentials, some toys to remote islands in the Indo-Pacific. And service members will spend days, like you see here in the hangar, packing these cardboard boxes onto a little pallet there, putting them onto the plane. And then the plane will fly over these remote islands, atolls, really small remote places where people don't normally have access to things like this. And I think it's a great program. And I would love to see more like this, less fighting on this channel, more humanitarian aid on this channel, because the United States military in peacetime could be the largest humanitarian force in the world if our adversaries would allow us to do this job rather than worrying about what they're going to do to us, right? Let us provide humanitarian aid as much as we can instead of worrying about the fight with someone else. So as a former military man myself, I'd much rather be giving gifts and happiness than calculating a fire control solution on whatever target's out there. And the United States military is capable of doing both. But this is the job I believe is more rewarding than anything else. So a big salute to the United States Air Force and everybody involved, other countries as well, Japan, the Australians are with us. Of course, Canada's there too. And everybody's having a good time right now, helping out other people. And what a way to see the world from the back of a C-130. So big salute to everybody. Merry Christmas. I hope you have a great one, and we'll see you after the holidays. All right. Bye now.